More than 10 weeks into the federal immigration crackdown,
immigration crackdown in Minnesota is coming to an end.
It all comes as hundreds of federal agents leave Minnesota.
This comes just days after Homeland announced Operation Metro Surge is ending.
When I first came to Minneapolis last month, the reality on the ground was one of chaos and violence. I'd arrived about a week after Renee Good was murdered by Border Patrol agent Jonathan Ross, and just a few days before a second Minneapolis resident, Alex Preddy, would be executed by multiple masked agents in front of the world.
This individual went and impeded their law enforcement operations, attacked those officers, had a weapon on him and dozens of rounds of ammunition, wishing to inflict harm on these officers, brandishing like that.
Throughout this time, regime officials like Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem told the American people to ignore the evidence of their eyes and ears, really in the most Orwellian way, painting an alternate reality that was in direct conflict with what we all plainly saw captured on video and broadcast around the world.
I have proposed, and President Trump has concurred, that this surge operation conclude.
Himself a true believer in the regime's cruel mass deportation program, I was immediately skeptical when he announced an end to their Minnesota campaign. The details provided were vague, and the language used provided enough plausible deniability that everything or nothing about the reality on the ground could change. As they often do, national news media took the government's word as gospel and quickly moved on. Stories of the war being waged against an American city were quickly replaced by wall-to-wall coverage of topics like the Winter Olympics and the kidnapping of Nancy Guthrie. I knew that I had to come back to Minneapolis to see for myself. After experiencing what I did during my short time here, I felt a special connection to this city and its people who had suffered and sacrificed so much at the hands of our own government. My fear was that, in the absence of major news coverage, the reality for Minnesotans hadn't changed, that the campaign of fear and violence was continuing unabated in the shadow of a media blackout. My hope was that I'd find a community beginning to recover as the promised exit of government agents and paramilitaries began. What I found was something in between. Driving through neighborhoods that just 2 weeks prior were filled with the sounds of whistles and car horns marking yet another abduction or act of violence were remarkably quiet. Yet countless signs and stenciled spray paint marked places where neighbors had been disappeared, each one representing a person who may never come home, a family disrupted, and another wound inflicted on a community already exsanguinating for the political gain of a corrupt regime.
They say they're winding down, but it just seems like they're just being a lot more subversive. So it seems like they're winding down, but
the newspaper headlines all read that Metro Surge is coming to an end. They want us to believe that the occupation is over when we see it in full swing in our own neighborhoods.
While it does seem like the operational tempo of regime forces has slowed, it certainly hasn't stopped. Bovino's role during his time in Minnesota was that of a showman. For all of his bluster as a self-styled lawman making the streets safer by any means necessary, his true purpose was to create spectacle, a spectacle that played to the desires of the MAGA crowd. Violent arrests, chemical weapons, images of immigrants and agitators being brought to heel in order to advance the regime's idea of what a better, whiter, more Christian America looks like. Homan, on the other hand, he's a career cop, and like most cops, he prefers to operate in shadows.
We will continue to enforce Title VIII immigration law throughout this nation. Prioritizing national security threats and public safety risks makes sense. But I'll continue to say over and over again, if you are here in the country legally, you're not exempt from our immigration laws.
He doesn't want the public seeing what he and his forces are doing. His strategies are likely to be much more calculated and less chaotic moving into the future, but no less destructive. What are you guys seeing as far as ICE activity here, like in Minneapolis proper?
In Minneapolis proper, it has like seemingly died down a little bit. There still is ICE activity, but definitely not near as much as kind of like around like the Renee Good and Alex Preddy shooting, kind of like mid-January, all that kind of stuff. It has died down since then, but it seems like they're more just kind of going towards suburbs, other parts of Minnesota. Like there have been a lot more reports up around like Duluth and the Iron Range and stuff. So it seems like they're just kind of getting out of the city proper and just kind of going to other parts of the state. And then also St. Paul as well. Because I work over in St. Paul, and even in just the last week, the route that I take to work, there have been a lot more signs popping up on street corners saying like a neighbor was abducted here, like 913 or not 213 and stuff like that. So it's like, oh, they're just kind of moving around, it seems, and going after places that don't have the robust rapid response networks that we have here.
What I found is the same resilient community that's fiercely dedicated to opposing the regime and protecting their neighbors.
And I love you because you are protecting us. We can't rely on the police. We can't rely on troopers. You should be proud of yourselves. Children will be singing about you 100 years from now, how you stood up to an abusive fascist government.
People continue to organize. They continue to protest. The dedicated volunteers from Haven Watch continue to monitor the Whipple Detention Center 24 hours a day and assist detainees that are released. Neighborhood ICE watches continue to operate. Agents and vehicles are still being documented and tracked. And all of this is contributing to a cautious optimism about the future, even with the knowledge that wholesale terror can return at any moment. And for the first time in over 2 months, there's a sense that people have the opportunity to mourn, to take stock of what's happened here, and think about how they can move forward, even if it's hard to conceptualize what that future may even look like.
The only thing that I can say that's maybe a little bit different this time is that we have kind of been through it before, and we've proved that our spirit is strong, and we'll continue to look out for our neighbors and rebuild as best we can. So hopefully that the future just looks similar to it as now, without the stain of the administration targeting us in the streets. Hopefully it's a future that we can rebuild better and be prepared for whatever comes our way in the future.
Getting to know your neighbors and just getting outdoors and maintaining the connections we're making here, just so in case this does happen again, just we're ready and we already have each other, so we can kind of just snap back into community defense at a moment's notice, basically, should it happen again, which hopefully doesn't happen, but with how things are going, it might be more likely than we think. So
now, I know that even as a visitor, only being immersed in the chaos wrought here for a short time, I'm not the same. I've left a small piece of myself here in Minnesota, and I'll take a small piece of this place with me. I just want you to remember the people here, they deserve your sympathy, they deserve your support, and they deserve your resolve. Minnesotans have given us all a gift of a master class on how to respond to and resist this regime's terror. And even when that terror inevitably strikes another American city, I want you to remember to keep an eye on Minnesota.
Just keep an eye on us. It's not over. We're like, it's easy to turn off the TV, but we're still here living it. So keep an eye on us, keep us in your minds. That's all I really got to say.